Okay. Okay, welcome back. This is part two with Travis Stroud, Doula.Dude on Instagram. And I know in our last conversation we had some glitches in the ethers and we were not able to, but we were on a roll. And I feel like we were because I mean, even just with that last conversation we were having, I mean, I could still go in like so many directions.
Yeah, it's
But
endless.
I know, but I had asked you if there was a defining moment for you, and you were talking about the propaganda and, oh my gosh, that movie we saw with that Al Gore.
Inconvenience truth.
Yeah. And
Inconvenient truth.
yeah, Inconvenient Truth. And we were kind of going down that and how
Yeah,
you
about how
went
I
to that.
started not trusting.
Yeah. So, um, after that, okay, so you started not trusting and the scientific method.
Yeah.
I guess what was, I actually don't even know, like, what is it? Do you work now?
Yeah, my wife and I are doing all kinds of different stuff. We run a tie-dye business. She has doula clients. I got part-time job at a grocery store. As we got all kinds of different things going on.
I mean, that's exactly what, well, that was exactly what my kid's father and I did. I had probably more stoke, things in the fire than he did. He was, and still is a very skilled mechanic and shop
Nice.
foreman at a Honda. And then I kind of was always juggling multiple things. I was homeschooling our kids for a long time. I brought in an extra child who became like the in-home daycare. I kind of ran a little small, like in-home babysitting gig and had, extra kids in our home for like 3 years. I ran a kettle corn business with my mom for almost 10 years, where we would work on Saturday mornings and we would pop at different farmers markets. And then
Nice.
we were bartering with all these local farmers. Now, for a minute there, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm using corn oil and sugar. And I
Yeah.
felt like I was like poisoning the population and had to kind of like I mean it's been a dance, and then that came to an end, and then I became a yoga teacher, and then I was driving Lyft and Uber. Like, it's always been a handful of things in order to kind of again create and cultivate the life that I've wanted for my people, right? And
Right.
it sounds like that's what you're doing too. So, but I want to, okay, so after that, what was the next big thing? Like, what made you said your wife was a yoga teacher, but then all of a sudden she wanted to become a doula. And I went through the
Yeah.
doula thing right after my son was born because I was like, there's something I'm missing. There's something else. I know I could have had still another experience, and uh, my water broke, right? So they're like, get the baby out 24 hours, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
And I read I think it was Hensey Goer's book, The Gentle Guide to a Woman's, some kind of something gentle. I can't remember. Whereas had I had no vaginal exam, I could have gone longer for one
Right.
after my water had broken before I had to,
Yeah.
because then what happens next?
You
Nothing was
increase the risk of
progressing.
infection.
Right. And then I had the Pitocin with my son. And then I knew I wasn't having an epidural, but then I had a little Demerol. It was just like one thing after another
Yeah.
because that's what happens. So my I guess prior to babies in birth, what were some other things that you questioned?
It was definitely with COVID. I had always, not really had a trust in authority. I knew that, when I watched the documentary Sugar Coated,
I
that
don't know if I've
really,
seen that one.
that was, I think it's 2018. This lady found these old files in this old sugar factory that was back when you had letters to and from government officials, from top scientists in the hired by the sugar industry. There, it was email communications, well, I guess like letter communications written with typewriters in these old files that she had found, and it was showing that it was with the push of sugar back when they were advertising sugar as a healthy calorie and sugar this and everything is, sugar is fine. And she was saying like it was showing that there was communication taking place from the scientists that were bought and paid for by the sugar industry, lobbying and sending letters to the government, essentially creating the sugar campaign that was back in the day. And so I was like, all right, so this it's not only that certain things are bad for us and the government might not have our best interest. It's that there are entities actively trying to harm us and to make our health less robust. And so there's actually, it's not that it's just not good, it's that there's actually an agenda to make it so that we're sick. So as soon as you realize that, it's like I don't want to be a victim. Like I don't want to ever put myself into a position where I could be made a victim. So in order to not be a victim, you have to become aware of what's going on. So that means you have to take your own health into you have to take responsibility for your life. That's essentially what it is. The people, when we outsource for everything, for our information, for our diet, for everything, it's like we see the results of that in the current statistics and in the health of the population. It's like it's not to a good result that we're outsourcing to experts for everything. Like we're sicker than ever, we got more disease than ever, so it's the writing's on the wall. It's like it takes us to look at it and then become aware and be responsible for our own lives. That's essentially, once you start watching these documentaries, there's root cause really woke me up, like the dental stuff and the association between root canals and different diseases inside the body related to those specific teeth. Like, and then it was when COVID happened, and I seen a video of Dr. Tom Cowan talking about the electric rainbow. There's the book written about the change in the different electromagnetic frequencies of the Earth when it started with like military radar that was blanketed across the Earth. And then within 3 to 6 months after that, that was when there was a certain plague or virus outbreak. And then when radio waves were blanketing the Earth, then there was another outbreak within another 3 months. And then when 1G, 2G, internet, all these different changes in the global electromagnetic frequency of the Earth, then there was a direct correlation to, like, I guess it would be us, our biology adapting to its new environment. So there's like a shedding or a detoxing or something that they then called a plague or a virus outbreak or something like that. And then Dr. Tom talks about where they're not even following the scientific method when they say that they discovered these certain things. So we know that DNA, chromosomes, viruses, all these different things that aren't founded on actual scientific principles are the scapegoats for the things that are actually causing the disorders and the diseases and the conditions that are taking place in society. We look in this direction, we're like, oh, well, it's got to be something out there. It's going to get in here, and it's so small we can't see it. And so now it's like we're afraid of our environment. And if we're not afraid of our environment, then if we have a disorder or a disability or something, then it's got to be genetic. It's got to be DNA. It's got to be something out of our control. And these virus and really, it's an actual attack on our biology and on our health. And then they're saying that it's these other things that actually aren't even based on sound scientific principles. So that when I found Dr. Tom, and the fact that he'd been a medical doctor for 40 years, he's a career physician and worked in the ER, and he's a reputable guy. But then you look him up on the internet during COVID times, and it's like, conspiracy theorist doctor gets his medical license suspended and this and that. He surrendered his medical license to be a health coach. So it's like people that realize that the system actually limits their ability to help people, and they surrender something that would be, that's like, it's like giving up your identity. If you go to medical school, and like they get their identity from that. You did 10 years of life's work and debt and everything like that. And for him to just be like, oh, this is a compromised system. Like I can't even help people within the system because the things that work, you get your license suspended. You get, so he, right when all this was going on, he just surrenders it. I'm like, what a gangster. He's a rogue medical doctor who just is not afraid to say exactly what's on his mind. And Bear Lando, Dr. Andrew Kaufman. So during the COVID times, people were like waiting for sports to come back and like, oh, my favorite athlete and this and that. And I'm over here idolizing doctors. And I'm going to Weston A. Price conference and meeting these people and got Dr. Tom to sign my book. And, so I kind of idolize and research and study the, not what normal 30-year-olds are interested in. So I'm like, it's a rabbit hole, and you realize that it's
Oh,
a deep rabbit hole when people that are the smartest are even compromised. So it's like we have to have our wits about us and be able to discern now more than ever, and especially in the birth space when the impacts and the implication of your approach and of your knowledge is going to affect your offspring and your family, and the dynamic between you and your wife, and just everything that means anything to people is impacted by the birth space.
yeah, I know. And and you are correct in that so many people they research all these different things, right? And that's kind of an analogy I use with my son. I'm like, look, I really want you to just kind of dig into this. He's an assistant basketball coach. I'm like,
Nice.
you research every single player. You
Yeah.
know every statistic.
Yeah.
You know where they've played, either academic, you know every single. I was like, this is your biggest fan. This is your biggest player.
Right.
And that's all. And then the rest I have to hand over to God, the divine to take care of the rest. But
Yeah.
like, but when people go in without questioning, they just simply have no idea
Yeah.
how these things, especially when you enter into hospital, start coming at you faster than you can say no to, right? And if you're not in there ready to be an advocate or you have the knowledge of what you can and can't say no to, right? You
Right.
can say no to anything.
You could leave.
You can leave.
You can leave. People don't even realize that. They think they're like held hostage or something. It's
I
like
know it's
you can say
wild.
no at any time.
Yeah. And I remember I went through that doula training and there was a gal that I was working with. I had to step away. I had an 18-month-old. It was too difficult. And the last birth I attended, it was a volunteer basis. The couple was from Africa, very, very, very little English. And I did know, through the organization, the refugee organization that had brought them here, however they got here, that she had had a baby back home all by, so she had no idea what a cesarean was. They kept asking her to sign these documents well before she needed to. Of course, the baby was too big. And so she had this like 5 pound, 8 ounce baby by
Oh, that's too
cesarean,
big.
by cesarean. I mean, like it was just, it was awful. I was like, okay, this is too hard. I can't do this right now. I wasn't in the headspace for it, but I think it's interesting. Here, I'm like back here in this space where like, okay, you've got to think about the baby's nervous system, all the things that you do not know, the nervous system of the family.
Yeah.
I mean, all the breastfeeding, your what is it? Your the statistic 27%.
Exclusively breastfeed for the first 6 months, and
So
that's got everything that the baby needs, the information from the mother, everything that's going to build its defense system, its detox pathways. It's everything, and the formula campaign, and at every different difficult turn, the mother, she's not getting support for breastfeeding. It's like, oh, why don't you just try formulas? The second it gets hard, it's like there's no perseverance, there's no education. It's always just here, put some toxic soy formula and chemicals and heavy metals and sugar in your baby, and well, make sure you mix it with tap water and then microwave it in BPA lined bottles, and that's better because fed is best.
yeah,
So it's like there's no information about it, and just in general, not even just breastfeeding, but just in society in general. That's what I was taken back from when I was just supporting my wife and her making the decision to take the doula training, it was something that she became, passionate about listening to a podcast with the lady on.
Yeah, who
That
was
was,
that? You mentioned a name. I didn't
her
ever.
name's Ayla Cuenca. She's based in Miami, and she's actually about to start a postpartum doula training. But
How do
she
you spell her name?
Eyla
EYLA.
Cuenca, Cuenca,
Okay.
Cuenca. But she runs Uncovering Birth Doula training, and she's been at over 300 births, and she was started as a birth photographer, and then started taking different doula trainings, and started to realize that the different recognized doula trainings, sometimes they're like 3 days, like a weekend, or maybe a week long course, and so there's like gaps in the different doula trainings where a lot of them just kind of teach you how to hold your client's hand and walk them right into the system and just do everything the system says. So it's, and now hospitals are even employing their own doulas, so it's kind of being hijacked, kind of how midwives were.
Mm-hmm.
And so she saw that, and she's like, now I'm going to create like a very comprehensive doula training. It's borderline a midwife training without medication, you know what I mean? So we learned how to take responsibility for it from start to finish. So that whatever $6,500 investment is probably the best investment that my wife and I have ever made. And then it's able to help other people too. So I think we've had 5 clients. My
Yeah.
wife's had been to 5 or 6 births, and I was the only one present for our birth. So I've only ever been to my daughter's birth, but there's just such a lack of information in general, where we go through so much schooling in today's Rockefeller schooling, and we don't learn anything. I mean, of course, we have like sex ed, and we learn about what creates pregnancy and all the diseases and everything about, but it's only just about like fear of pregnancy. There's no education about how to properly go about conception through pregnancy, through birth, and then postpartum in a proper way, not even like a glazing over like overview of it, so that in case a woman gets pregnant, like we'd have no information about procreation, and it's like how to create people, how to make sure that our civilization continues. It's like just not even in the curriculum. We don't know anything about it. We'll take an entire semester on geology. You take a whole semester on rocks that don't move, don't grow, don't they're just there. And we have a whole semester on them. But how birth and pregnancy takes place, what goes on in that, seemingly something that I would think would be important, is not even mentioned. Like women are going all the way through conception, through pregnancy, birth, and then even after the birth of their baby, they don't even know that they have more contractions to deliver the placenta.
Mm-hmm.
So like how in that moment you've gone through your whole life as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
through all these years of education, through a pregnancy, and then you don't even know at that time that there's like you have to birth your placenta after. Like somebody had said, like, wow, they're holding their baby, like, and then the doctor's talking about delivering the placenta, and they're like, what? Like they didn't even know. So that just blew my mind. We've researched anything else in the world, but then when it comes to what would seemingly be the most important decision, we just outsource the entire thing. And so that's what really fascinated me, to like, oh, let me learn about this so that when we conceive, we can go about it in the way that we think is going to decrease the likelihood of us having complications, and eliminate all these risks that are involved with hospital births nowadays. So we just learned all about it, and it's fascinating. I'm still learning about it. Like I've only been interested in it for the last 4 years, but still learn stuff every single day.
Yeah. So have you, there's a woman out there. I had her on my show a couple of different times. Her name is Jenna McClelland.
Mm.
She's doing work. I think you once said earlier that you might be more passionate about birth than your wife,
Yeah,
right? And she's
yeah,
the one. And so Jenna McClelland is a woman who is really trying to navigate or, just excavate the history of circumcision, right? And bring awareness around that. And
There's another rabbit hole. There's
yeah,
another rabbit hole.
and she, has not been circumcised. She's a female, but, like she's so passionate about it, almost more than a lot of men out there today that
Yeah,
are just sort of kind of going along with what they've been told. This is the deal, and this is what you do.
yeah,
Um, and you're not made aware. Again, people are simply not made aware of both sides. They just aren't. They
yeah.
are fucking told one side.
Yep.
And despite how educated somebody is, they are not giving both sides. You go into that pediatrician's office, they're going to share you the only side that they know.
Yeah, that's just the only side they know. They don't know anything
Yeah,
else. They think that that's what childhood is.
right.
They
So to
think they
think that you're
see a bunch of sick people. They
right.
think that's the nature of it. Kids are just weak. They're just,
Yeah, so to think that your doctor or practitioner is going to give you both sides is naive,
I
right?
think Paul Chek said it's,
I just found him. He's great.
I love Paul Chek. I've studied him for a while too. He said PhD stands for piled higher and deeper. These
Mhm.
people that have PhDs in certain topics, they're so just up to their neck in their own preconceived ideas and everything they were taught. And so it's almost like it's almost to a fault where they're not even able to not just understand the other perspective, but even, even see it. Because that's all they see. So they're inundated with that, and that's their reality. That's what they think that health is. That's what they think birth is. If all your, I went to talk to the NICU nurse for, she was a 14-year NICU nurse, Kirsten Nagel or Kristen Nagel. She had seen that every day in the NICU, and so her experience of childbirth was that it's inherently dangerous, and 1 in 10 babies is going to be in the NICU and they need help, and but that's all she was seeing. So she's not seeing the home births and the free births that don't ever even go to the hospital. You're not seeing the Amish people that are having home births that are never vaccinating, that are in robust health. So what you're seeing, it's like when you go to talk to your midwife, you want to ask them, how many transfers do you have? What, but when we go to our doctor, we don't ask them how many times their babies are, mothers that are delivering babies with them, their babies go to the NICU. How many? We're not vetting them. We're not vetting even their perspective of birth. So everybody that's going to be in your birth space is going to project their experience onto you, and that's going to affect how the birth plays out. So if you have people that their whole idea of birth is a medical situation, it's very likely going to turn into a medical situation. So
Mhm.
we didn't even want any of that even around us. So it
Mhm.
was like it was almost, it wasn't naive, but it was almost to the point that because we'd never had a baby before, my wife had never been pregnant and never given birth, and I had never been to any of my siblings' birth, or so neither. I think she was at her niece's birth. I think it was the only birth that she had been at, but we didn't have any like preconceived ideas about what it was, and then we learned about the natural undisturbed process, and then did the in-depth doula training. So we weren't like, the only thing that we had to get out of was just the brainwashing from Hollywood, from everything that we already thought we knew. Like that was most of the education, was unlearning all the stuff that we already thought that we knew, because it's not the reality of childbirth. That was just like images and stories told from the medical system. So when people were like, "Oh, if I wasn't at the hospital, I would have died. My baby would have died." What we actually hear is, "I almost died because I was at the hospital." You know what I mean? Like that's what they're saying. They're not even aware that they're saying it. So we didn't have any preconceived ideas, or we didn't have, our first birth was a traumatic birth at the hospital, so now we just want to do things differently. Like we didn't even have any of that. It was just like, all right, let's start with the foundation and just not disturb the process from start to finish, and let's trust in the design and see how it goes. And boom, look, everything was just fine. So people were like, wow, that's just like survivor bias. But really, I think the survivor bias is more prevalent with people that survive the hospitals. So then they, they're just in support of the hospital because they had to save them from a situation that they very likely caused. But now it's like I think the most survivor bias is the people that are advocating for having births in the hospital because birth is dangerous and all that. It's like no, you I think you just have like survivor bias because the women that have had traumatic experiences and the women and the babies that have died in the hospitals, they wouldn't say that. They would have been like, you know what? I wish I just never interfered with this process and would have just let it take place. Their chances of complications would have probably been less.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. So when you all, okay, so when you all were preparing, well, I guess at first I want to go back a couple things. What were some other movies that you woke, or you watched? I what? I mean, yeah, you've
Like
got
a lot of them.
Sugar-Coated, and then you've got Root Cause on here. I remember there were some movies back in the day. They were more on 9/11, but I was
Oh,
watching
they're
stuff I was getting at the library. Like in,
nice.
let's see, my son was born in 2002. I probably started to watch some of that, but I gotta say, I too was in ninth grade, and I had this science teacher. And she just kept trying. I don't know if this is the only thing. I think it was a combination of things. But first of all, my mother had breast cancer and they were pumping her full of chemotherapy. And she's alive. She's 72. But I just remember thinking, it was really like her health diagnosis that made us question everything. And they had told her, don't have too many raw fruits and vegetables. It'll counteract the chemotherapy. Well, if fruits and vegetables are that powerful, why not
Aha.
use, fruits and vegetables and juicing and all the things that she did alongside.
Right.
Right. And I watched her, I combed her hair out. I watched her get very sick, violently ill, and in and out of the hospital for at least a good, I don't know, 6 or 8 months maybe. And then she had a reoccurrence later on. I also believe um, very much so that stress, emotional anguish shows up in the body when we are not listening to our intuition. Uh,
Dis-ease.
this
Dis-ease.
Yeah. But this science teacher, she was showing us movies on JFK Jr.'s um, death and how she did not believe, the story. And these were all
Wow.
like, and I'll, but we were in science class, right? But I'll never forget Miss Klingle Smith. And so that was, and I don't think I thought about that for a minute, but then I'm like, okay, there is some off stuff going on. And then when I was, lied to about childbirth, and then I was lied to about, you realize, oh, there's quotas that they have to meet, these hospitals have to meet. So if you happen to be there and you need this, that, quota needs to be met, they might, intervene with said intervention or what have you. And
Yeah.
then, that, I could have gone much longer after my water broke before I, you know, had a baby. And then they want to start pushing that formula so soon. And, I did pick a place that was kind of baby friendly with lactation consultant on. But I also, and I do, I guess I wonder, I know and because I wouldn't even know some of the names of the movies that I saw so long ago, but definitely, and then of course, The Business of Being Born.
Yes, that's a great one. And
Um,
then American Circumcision. That's a
oh
good
yeah,
one.
I have not seen that. And somebody told me they could not watch it. It
It's
was,
hard. I
it's
mean,
too
it's hard
much.
to watch, but I never even really, I mean, I'm circumcised. It wasn't my choice, but I think it might have been on Netflix or something. It might have been on one of these streaming platforms a while ago. I think it might have been 2018 or something like that. And I saw it, and I when I read it, it said American circumcision, but I guess for whatever I thought it said American curriculum or something. And I
Mm.
studied elementary education in college, so then I was like American curriculum, like that's part of why I, got out of that because I was like, oh, this curriculum is all, if you listen to or read into the work of John Taylor Gatto, he wrote mass indoctrination or
he also wrote The Hidden Agenda Behind Compulsory.
modern school.
Yeah,
Yes,
something like that.
compulsory schooling.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Compulsory schooling. So John Taylor Gatto, he started waking me up to that. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I clicked on it, thinking that it was American curriculum.
Yeah. Mm.
And then it starts into the intro and whatnot. And I'm like, and then I click the thing and make the reverse or the rewind panel come up and I reread it. I'm like, this is about circumcision. Like, so I didn't even mean to like click on it. And then it just hooked me with the intro, and I'm like, well, I'm circumcised. I'm like, what was that? And then I'm like watching it, I'm like, holy, like it wasn't even in my awareness because apparently I didn't remember it, but then you start to see what's going on and you're like, wow, this is being done in like 60% of hospital births. It's the most performed surgery in
Mhm.
hospitals today.
Mhm.
I'm like, wait a minute. So then, I just stumbled into that one. I wasn't even seeking that information. It was just like kind of brought to me.
Right. And as you said, like you're still learning. Like I think on the it was Dr. Kaufman was talking about how the placentas are sold. Um, these hospitals are making a killing on selling our placenta, right?
Yeah.
And then we talked about it, I think, with Veda as well, how that they're selling these placentas and even the foreskin for
Yeah.
beauty products and such. And gosh, it's infuriating. It's infuriating. Okay, so then to prepare, so there were you also, I do think, like it sounds like you and your wife, like it was uh like in regards to, and this was something that, like my sister and I were talking about in regards to breastfeeding, like it was absolutely a non-negotiable.
Yeah. That's how my wife felt.
And I mean, even like, right, and I'm sure it was a non-negotiable. She really wanted to have a free birth, right? But, and I know, like I did two birth trainings to educate, and I went to the same one twice, birthing from within.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful kind of curriculum. And you go in and it's very immersive. So you might do some art, there's some meditation. She's bringing in all kinds of different modalities. And you have to face the tiger. What's your tiger of birth? Like, what are you afraid of? So in my
Yeah.
particular case, I was afraid of the stillborn baby. Okay. And I wanted to have a home birth. I did not want a cesarean. So that was the fear. Now, when I was here, this was the crazy, everybody's experience is different, but her goal is that regardless of the birth experience, is that you come away empowered regardless.
Right.
You have an empowering experience regardless. So here I am at this training in Albuquerque, and another gal there was ashamed that she had this completely natural birth because all she knew was epidurals and the stuff she'd seen in Hollywood, and her mom and her sisters and all her friends had epidurals. So here she is, presents to the hospital, is way too late for any interventions, right? Really the best way to go. She had no idea.
Right.
But she leaves with shame and guilt and feelings of disgust in herself because, there's primal sounds, there's all this moaning and groaning, and right? It can sound very sexual at times.
Right.
And, so her experience was walking away feeling, yeah, ick over this amazing, right, physiological process because of her own conditioning. She was there from a completely different space than
Wow.
I had showed up, right? And so you come to see like everybody comes in differently, and but that you go in and you really have to face that fear and visualize yourself coming out the other side, because every once in a while it doesn't, more often than not, I would say it depends. Like if you're going to the hospital, I would say probably more often than not it doesn't necessarily go the way you
Oh
think. It
yeah, it's like
probably never
40%,
goes.
40% of women are claiming that they experience traumatic, undesirable birth experiences in the hospital, and that's just the women willing to admit that they were traumatized by the hospital experience. A lot of women are too prideful to even admit that that wasn't the ideal experience for them. They're like, nah, I took it like a champ. Everything was good. You know what I
Well,
mean? But really, they just subconsciously bury that. So it might even be more than the 40% that are saying that they're having traumatic experiences. So I do think it's probably more often than not, there is not the birth of their choice taking place in the hospital.
and you
And
know, I as a body worker, and someone who, understands that, the fascia and the trauma, it can get stored there, right? Oftentimes we don't know it's there, right? But it's showing up in the body, whether or not we want to recognize that or not.
yeah,
And it might show up as you get older, right? In the hip area in particular, right? The psoas is the seat of the soul. It's the only muscle that connects the back to the legs, and that's our
yeah,
trauma muscle. So, it's like right after you give childbirth, right? All this is like oxytocin's relaxed, but you start shaking, right? That's a tremor from trauma. And I don't know if your wife shook, but here I was like this, and they're like right afterwards, I've had, my babies, and it's a trauma response. The body's trying to bring itself back into equilibrium. So it's completely normal. But what they tell you is you're just cold.
oh,
So they start bringing you these hot blankets and everything, like in the hospital. But now that I know that, I didn't know that then, but I do know now. Like if you're getting the tremor, it's so much of this, whatever's going on, all the endorphins, the adrenaline, all that is the body's trying to come back into homeostasis.
all
And
right.
so like that, and so like an animal in the wild, if it's being chased by a cheetah, once a cheetah's gone, let's say it's a rabbit, the rabbit will lay down and tremor.
Yeah, get that nervous system set back up.
Right. And so, we will do that, but I didn't know that, here I'm thinking, you're just, I don't know, you're just constantly learning. And, um, but I this non-negotiable, you know, with what I wanted and how I wanted to have my baby. And the same with the breastfeeding, right? My nipples were going to be bleeding and falling off before I didn't, right? I mean,
Right, right,
and so like with my son, I was like, everything was easy peasy. I didn't understand why everybody didn't do it. With my
right.
daughter, it was painful. It was almost worse than childbirth. We had
Wow.
nipple shields and this, that, and the other, and bleeding like crazy. But I had been so lucky. I met one lactation consultant who happened to be the friend of my kid's father's best friend, so the mom. And she's like, give it 6 weeks. 6 weeks is the magic number. And as soon as we hit 6 weeks with my daughter, boom, the rest was, And so she nursed till almost, she was like 2 3/4. So almost
Nice.
3. And then, and that's another thing, right? You don't actually have to have a crib. Let's just kind of the affordability piece, right? You don't have to have a crib. They
Nope,
don't need their own bedroom. They don't need all
nope,
this fancy stuff. We
nope.
co-slept. We had a family bed.
Yep,
All I did was roll over. Our sleep wasn't really disturbed.
not at all.
I mean, it's just like all of the brainwashing, like all you need to do, they will find you. They smell you, they know where your breast is, they will find you,
Yep.
and then almost nobody is in no sleep is interrupted. Nobody's waking up in the middle of the night. You might
No,
notice, but I didn't, like I kind of learned it like just along the way. And but that's not like the whole picture of birth and raising children, and they've got to have this separate bed.
no.
I don't even,
That's when they're most seeking to feed off of your nervous system to regulate theirs.
yeah.
That's when they need that regulation, that co-sleeping. I kid you not, I probably woke my baby and my wife up more than they woke me up during the first year. I was up more than them. They slept better than me. And
Yeah.
that wasn't because they were waking me up. That's just because everything was that peaceful. Like I did not get woken up. Maybe she cried out, not even loud, just enough to for my wife to hear that she needed boob, and she, like you said, rolled over, boob, right in them.
Mhm.
It's not like you had to wake up, go downstairs, put the bottle heater on, mix up some formula. But you know what I mean? Oh, well, there wasn't a bottle clean because we didn't do dishes last night. So now I got to clean a bottle, and you're doing all this stuff. And then now it's not even the right amount. It's not the right ratio of protein and fats and sugars that the baby needs because it's not breast milk. So then after you feed them, now you got to burp them because now they're having digestive problems because you just put a bunch of seed oils in their belly. So now you got to get out of bed to burp them. All of that is less convenient. And the breastfeeding was more convenient because then when baby got up, she put the ring sling on. Baby's in the ring sling just like a kangaroo, and she's making breakfast. If baby needs some breast, ooh, pop the breast in. She doesn't even miss a beat. She's now making her, her cacao in the morning, make some buttered toast, and
Mhm.
everything is gravy. We just took her wherever we went, and she was just like a plus one, just in the ring sling. You don't need a. We didn't have a stroller. She baby wore the whole entire time. We never bought a stroller. We never bought a crib. She co-slept. We had the ring sling and the car seat were the two most expensive things that we bought. And then, some baby clothes and some reusable diapers. And even that, the reusable diapers, everybody throughout, when we were telling them throughout the pregnancy, we're gonna use the reusable diapers, the cloth diapers. We're not gonna put these toxic chemicals on her. We want the organic cloth diapers. And people were, discouraging us from that. They're like, "Oh, that's so inconvenient. That's this and that." And then you ask them, like, "Well, what was your experience like?" They're like, "Oh, we never did it." It's like, well, what does your opinion even matter if you don't even know what you're talking about? Like, people are passing on advice and information and discouraging people from doing things that would actually benefit them and their baby without any sort of experience, nothing but propaganda in their minds, because it was actually easier because she was out of diapers and in the big girl underwear at 19 months. We threw all the diapers away
Mhm.
because
Yeah,
she felt that feedback the whole time she was getting the cloth diapers. She
yeah.
knew that she peed. It wasn't like ultra absorbent and you got a 3.5-year-old still shitting and pissing themselves at the public park because they're still in diapers. It's like, I think it's not even that inconvenient because we just hooked up the bidet handle to the back of the
Mhm.
toilet. So then you
Mhm.
just rinse off the
Yeah.
diaper into the toilet and flush it. And then you just put it in its separate hamper and you just wash it with like vinegar and baking soda
Mhm.
and you just do laundry. You're not like, oh, we're almost out of diapers. You got to go to the store. Now you got to buy them. Now you're spending money. And then your baby, can pee or poop in them in a couple different times. So now you're not even more, you're less in tune with your baby's needs and their cues. And now they're sitting in moisturized chemicals that are now soaking into their skin. And I think that's the whole thing about diaper rash. I don't even think that's actually a thing. I think it's because of the diapers, because she never experienced diaper rash in the cloth diapers. And so then she was actually potty trained faster with just a little bit more work. You're not doing laundry anyway. We were going to do laundry. So what's one extra load every 2-3 days? It's not that big of a deal. So we're doing laundry and we're giving her the time, putting her over the toilet after the diaper change. That's literally the only extra work. The inconvenience is actually having a child that's 3 years old and not potty trained yet.
Mhm.
That's inconvenient. Having to buy diapers and spend hard earned money on diapers that are benefiting nobody but the diaper companies because your baby's delayed development and the toxicity of them, like, it's not beneficial for your baby in any way,
Well,
shape, or form.
yeah, you're
You
going
know what I
from the
mean?
diapers to the pull-ups,
Right. You're not even
right?
going into, yeah, not even going into underwear.
Yeah, I
We
have
didn't
a
even have the pull-up phase.
yeah, I had a friend who she did is it the elimination?
Yeah, elimination communication.
Yeah, and so hers were also potty trained. Of course, I didn't know about that back then, but
Yeah,
that's in the last 5 years. That's since COVID. That and
that's a big, yeah, that's a
two
big one now.
kiddos. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We did a combination for a long time. It was like off and on. With the um, cloth diapering, and then but it looks like there's even better options out there today than
Yeah.
I mean, even in 20 years, so much has changed. But today you have you're talking about being in tune with your baby and uh something I learned along the way, and I don't even know where I learned it, but when your baby's in bed with you or you've been skin to skin or your baby wearing, you're very in tune. You know what's going on, right? You
Yeah, you're more
also
nurturing.
freely don't need a thermometer. I
Yeah,
mean, you
what
can
is this
have one,
thermometer thing? I don't even know
but
what that.
all you have to do
Never
is
even had a
place your
thermometer.
lips. Like we were created perfectly. Our lips are a thermometer. You'll know if your baby's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
I didn't know that till I was raising. I'm like, oh, like I always knew there he's warm, she's warm, like right. I didn't need a thermometer. Maybe to get if it was like really high to get a number, but
Right.
my approach was still the same.
Right.
Right? I might get out the peppermint oil. Like we were always using homeopathic remedies, and I had speaking of, she was a medical doctor. She got her degree in Venezuela, but when she got here, she did not um, apply for her medical license because she was using a radionics machine and doing biofeedback. And then she would use a pendulum. And so I would call her up and she had our blood samples. So she would have our blood samples. She would douse over the blood sample and she would call me back with the homeopathic remedy. I'd go pick it up from her house. And I mean,
Yeah.
it was effective.
If you
And
Google homeopathy, they say it's a unscientific feel like so even that like I just think it's crazy because then people actually go to look into these kinds of things and then they're all of a sudden faced with propaganda even when they're trying to seek the information. So it's like you have to like have a conspiratorial heart to get through the first layer
yeah,
of just BS. Like you got to persist through and not just be like, oh yeah, that official narrative makes sense, and then you just stop looking because you might not even have the most effective thing on the table with homeopathy if you look into it and then you think, oh, that's not even a scientific field of practice. That's not even a medical. That's not even a legitimate. You know what I mean? So I,
I
it's
mean,
important
you
to
think
even have a conspiratorial mindset.
right. So you have the the homeopathic hospitals that were here in the beginning, right? And then
Right.
also the chiropractic. Most people sought chiropractic care, and then of
Right.
course the Rockefeller medicine took over and created propaganda
Funded.
around the dangers of all of that. And so you have people, calling chiropractors quackery, and then same with homeopathy, and that doesn't work, and this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, most elites keep a homeopathic remedy box in their bag and
Right.
and so I'm grateful for people like you who want to get on Instagram and rant.
Yeah.
Um I have to go teach a yoga class here soon, but I think
Awesome.
we could talk some more. I do would love for you to share um what nuggets of insight you have in these last like 10 minutes, whether it's and then I don't know, are you all teaching you and your wife teaching anything on, do you all have, or do you see client? I know your wife she probably has personal clients down there in Florida, like in-person clients, but do you all do things outside of that?
Yeah, we're looking to create some more offerings. She just finished up with a client 2 months ago that had their baby at a birth center down here. So
Hmm.
we do have in-person clients, but we're definitely looking to do more like consulting online with people. I've had people, especially men, reach out to me about being in different situations in their life, or they're, 2 weeks postpartum, they got their OBs telling them this, or, people are just reaching out to me on DMs and just like, very personal information and just, you know, asking me about things. So I want to definitely consult with people. I feel like that one-on-one talking to people and giving them maybe a perspective that they've never even heard before. It's not medical advice, but it's a perspective that could then shift everything for them. So I definitely want to do more consultations. I'm always open to, setting that up through DM, but we're definitely looking to create more offerings, whether it be like a class specifically for men, or if we could both kind of create a birth class or something for people as a resource. In our personal life, like with clients, we don't want to work in the hospital. So if the client's already choosing a hospital birth, they're probably not philosophically aligned with us. So
Hmm.
like just like you can choose another care provider, it's like the person that's offering doula services, like we can choose who we want to work with as well. And we're definitely interested in working with people that align with us philosophically, because that's the higher, chance of having a better outcome during the birth. So we don't want to, already be battling philosophically with, if they think that the hospital is the best place to birth, it's like, that's not the best place where I could serve you. So we're not doing hospital births, birth center. That was a new experience. So we're like, yeah, let's definitely help out this client that's having, planning with the midwife at a birth center. And it was a beautiful experience.
Hmm.
I wasn't there personally, but I was helping with the husband with the prenatal meetings and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But so definitely looking for people that align with us and are just looking for more help and information from a couple that has done it themselves completely outside of the system. So I'm trying to help more babies be born outside of the system, because medicalized midwives and hospital births, they have to be registered in the system. They go into the whole. So I'm more interested in creating more of like a little army of sovereign babies with parents that are also in that like mind. Because actually, me and Veda that you just had on,
Yeah.
we have a mutual friend in real life that we both realized that we both know Veda on social media. But so her name's Ronnie, but it's the only other free birth mom that we've met,
Oh,
and we're
okay.
friends with her down here. She's a I am the glitch on Instagram, but she when we meet other like free birthing and outside of the system, like sovereign no birth certificate, those kinds of parents and those kinds of families, they're just built different.
Hmm.
So I feel like that these people that are like aligned with more truth, I feel like that's who we're gravitating towards, and that's who we're trying to find, and that's who this message is going to resonate with. So we're just trying to create that a community around that and
Yeah, and
help
they're not
support
gonna, I mean, we, right?
that.
Your frequency is gonna attract that, right? I mean,
Right.
yeah. And then the others are, I promise, they're not gonna be listening. I mean, they might
No
listen,
way.
but they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, what, it's like, and that's okay, right? Because, and that's why I created this podcast. You are living your most unapologetic life, despite all of the naysayers and all the haters and all the people who might think you're crazy, right? And that's okay.
Right.
That's how I feel. Like that's why I want, um, I can tell you right now, if I had another baby, it would absolutely be at home again, free birth, sovereign baby, no birth certificate, all the things, but I didn't
Yeah.
know. And,
Right.
and like you said, it's when you start going down any rabbit hole or any you you first of all, you can't unknow what you now know, and then second of all, you just keep learning. Like,
Yes.
and looking for the truth. And I
Discernment.
Yeah,
Discernment is so important.
but I think people are so credentialed and way down, and I'm like, I have this and that, next to my name, all these letters, right?
Right. What does that mean?
Right, you're so credentialed, you can't even think.
Right.
I mean, seriously, like they can't even think, and I really thought that during COVID, I'm like, I don't give a fuck what your credential is. Like nothing
No.
you're saying is resonating in my body, and when we're
Right.
really in tune, like we will feel it in every cell and every bone and every tendon, ligament, organ. We don't need you to tell us
Yeah.
what you think.
We were willing to accept the consequences that come with our decisions.
Yes.
And I feel like people aren't um, confident enough to know that what they're reading into or the truth that they have stumbled upon. Then they like almost, if it's something that's counter the narrative, they almost look for reasons why not to believe it. So then they're like in this limbo, like one foot on each side, and that's almost even more detrimental.
Mhm.
So I think it's better to hold the disposition of distrust in anything that you're being told until you validate it for yourself, cross reference, and if it resonates within yourself. But people to automatically just trust and believe simply because it's coming from an authority figure, that's the refer to authority fallacy. Like
Mhm.
that's That's where you get into trouble, just believing something because it's told by somebody that you think is an authority, when those authorities were the same authorities telling you that smoking cigarettes is a good healthy habit, and your doctor smokes camels, and sugar is a healthy calorie, and trans fats are, better than saturated fats, and eat canola oil. Like these experts and these professionals and these credentialed people have been wrong time and time again, with very bad outcomes because of them being wrong, and then us just blindly believing them. It's like if it was an individual person and not a complete, you know, industry feeding you this information. If it was just like, Elizabeth, you've told me a couple things that didn't really resonate, and then I found them to not be true. Well, then everything that you say after that, I'm going to be questioning it. But because it's coming from a authority, they can be wrong time and time again, and we just keep believing them. It's like, when do you stop believing them and start questioning?
Mhm.
It's better to have the disposition of distrust in authority than it is to automatically blindly believe them. So I'd rather be wrong on my own terms
Mhm.
than be wrong and it be me outsourcing it, and then for it to be in the birth space, for it to be my daughter and my wife being the victims of my ignorance. We couldn't live with that,
Right. Yeah.
because we wouldn't know if it's something that they did at the hospital that caused something that then happened because we outsourced it. You know what I mean? We were willing to accept the consequences of whatever was going to happen. It was going to happen at home in a peaceful manner. And
Mhm.
women that have experienced stillborns or experienced loss
Mhm.
at the hospital, in juxtaposition to at home, because you know, women have experienced both. Like
Mhm.
one woman experiences both, and she reflects on the experience as a whole, happening at home and then happening at the hospital. And it's much more peaceful of an experience at home, because you know that it was under your own, choice and everything. And then when they look back into the statistics, that if that were to have happened at the hospital, the chances of them being able to save baby or mother in a situation that was an actual extreme medical emergency, they wouldn't have been able to save them at the hospital anyway. So then it would have just happened in another room with another person. And then the doctor just comes in and is like, oh, sorry, we couldn't save her. Oh, we couldn't save the baby. Like, that is not something we were willing to experience. We would have rather had it happen at home, knowing that it was how it was supposed to happen. There was nobody else involved in it, nobody else's indoctrination, nobody else's misdiagnosis, nothing else caused what happened. It was the natural physiological process. But we can't accept that as a society. It's like, oh, if a loss happens in a home birth, like, oh, everybody's up in arms. But it happens all the time at the hospital, and traumatic births are happening all the time, and nobody bats an eye or questions that at all. But as soon as it happens in a home birth setting, where it's an undisturbed birth that actually has, that fraction of a 1% chance that something goes wrong, they highlight that as if that is just the nature of it. And then it makes all the mainstream. It's like, home birth mother dies because she rejects the ambulance 2 times. And you know what I mean? That's a tragedy. You know what I mean? But then they highlight it
Well,
and paint the
they're also not bringing into awareness the side effects, the long-term side effects, the acute side effects of circumcision. They're not highlighting that all over the news either, right? Uh,
right.
and so,
How
as if,
100 babies
you know,
die every
right.
year.
And so then you got to look at the vaccines, because that was another one. Like, I knew going in, like, this is a very big decision. I'm not going to take it lightly, but I'm going to not choose not to vaccinate. And I'm going to do everything in my power to build really healthy, strong, robust children with our lifestyle.
Right.
Knowing that, right? Because that's always, and what if they get, well, I mean, I guess just, I guess I'm of the belief system that, and after this, we have to reconvene at another time.
Yeah.
But,
No worries.
after once I decided, I was like, if that is truly something were to happen, they need to get sick or cross over, right, back to the heavens, then that is truly what was supposed to happen for this soul and the growth of my soul and all the souls involved. Like that too is a thing. I guess I just think we're playing God far too often.
Yeah. We have to accept that death comes with creating life. There's no medicalization of the birth process that can completely eliminate risk. I
Hmm.
feel like that's what people don't realize. And once you make peace with that,
Hmm.
then you can actually choose to have the birth that you choose, with no apologies, unapologetic living, especially in the birth space, because the implications of it are very far reaching.
They are absolutely. Thank you so much, Travis. I want to
Yeah.
reach out again.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I
Yeah,
appreciate you.
you're welcome. And let's talk again, okay?
Sure. We'll be in touch.
Okay. All right. Have a great one.
See ya. You
Bye bye.
too.